Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Speak on It. So, this weekend, we're going to get straight into it. Our series this week is going to be talking about We Are Not Your Guinea Pigs, okay? So, basically, this week, we're going to talk about Black disparities, African American disparities in the health community, and there are little different things that's going on, past, present, and future. We're going to talk about the female and the male perspective, but this week we're going to talk about the female perspective. So we're going to jump right into it. Some of our hot topics for today is going to be Henrietta Lacks, J. Marion Sims, Fannie Lou Hammer, the reproduction experiments. Yep. Yellow fever. What happened with that stuff going on down there? Lack of health care. Pain endurance myths. Because let me tell you, I'm not even going to get into that right now. We're going to get into it later. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Henrietta Lacks, right? Henrietta Lacks. So for those who may not know who Henrietta Lacks is, I'm going to give you a brief run through, right? All right, so Henrietta Lacks was a young Black mother at the age of 31. She went to see the doctor because she had vaginal bleeding. This was in 1951. She went to see Dr. Howard Jones, who was a doctor at John Hopkins. And we all, I mean, if you haven't heard about John Hopkins, then Google it, because that is a medical hospital center teaching place. They have a lot going on there. John Hopkins is a big name in the medical field. So back to what I was saying, Henrietta Lacks, she went in, and Dr. Howard Jones, he discovered that she had a malignant tumor on her cervix. So in other words, she had cervical cancer. So they started the radiation treatment for her, but she didn't make it. October of 1951, she passed away due to, the complications surrounding the cervical cancer. And here's where this story actually takes flight. So they took cells from Henrietta Lacks and they sent them to Dr. George Gay, right? And he discovered that her cells were doubling every 20 to 24 hours, right? So they were amazed because they had collected other cancer cells, but the cells wouldn't live. They would eventually die. But with Henrietta Lacks cells, they actually doubled every 20 to 24 hours. Therefore, they were very aggressive. So what y'all think happened? Yep. They took those cells and they continue to use them. Now, let me give you a little rundown on this. They did not ask Henrietta before she passed away if they could use her cells. They did not ask her family if they could use her cells. They just took it upon themselves to say, hey, we may as well grab, get some of her cells and use them. Now, their defense is, at the time, there wasn't any laws in place that prevented them from using her cells. That's exactly what they say. I'm going to post on the bottom of my blog. I'm going to post the research that I did. All you got to do is click on it and read it for yourself. Because you know what? When you read stuff for yourself, you get that knowledge. And knowledge is power. We need to understand what's been going on in the history so it doesn't repeat itself. Know your laws, people. Know the facts. So back then, they didn't have any laws preventing them from taking her cells. However, here we are, 2022. This was back in 1951, over 70 years. They have continuously been using her cells. So much so that the cells have multiplied to over 55 million tons of cells. They have used them in over 75,000 scientific experiments for the greater good, right? That's what they said, for the greater good. We're going to use it for the greater good. They are using her cells, right? And so her son says, well, y'all need to compensate us for her cells. Y'all didn't ask anybody's permission to use her cells, and here it is all these years later, and you're still using her cells. So, y'all need to compensate us. So, John Hopkins, all that money, y'all, they won't pay the family. As of October the 7th, 2021, the family has yet to be compensated for them using Henrietta Lacks cells. Oh, but wait now. They do give her a little bit of credit. A little bit. Not compensation, but a little bit of credit. They called them the HeLa cells. H-E for her first name and L-A for her last name. So they call them the HeLa cells. But they will not compensate the family. Pharmaceutical companies have been making money off her cells. Many other different places that they have used her cells have been making money. They have been banking off of her cells, but will not compensate her family. Let's not let history repeat itself. So, hey, here's the question. Is it ethical or unethical? I think it's unethical. It's immoral. It is sad that they will not even say, hey, we know. Yeah, I want y'all to go read the statement that they put in there. They said, I'm going to give y'all a little snippet, but I want y'all to go read it. They said that the cells that they retrieved from Henrietta Lack was involuntarily donated cells. Y'all hear that word involuntary though, right? But they got to put that donated so it sounds so sweet. No. Y'all took her cells. Y'all are still using them. Y'all have exploited her cells and y'all been making money off of it. And y'all don't even want to compensate the family. Come on. Seriously? Okay, we're going to move on. But yeah, no, that was wrong. Okay. And I'm rooting with John Lax. They need to compensate that family because no one asked. All right, so we're going to move on. Well, that's Henrietta Lacks. Now we're going to talk about J. Marion Sims. J. Marion Sims. Let me put myself together because this man, they call him Dr. J. Marion Sims. Call him the father of gynecology. Now, let me give y'all a rundown on him before I get out the balance, the scales, right? All right, so he was a doctor. And he was called father of gynecology because he basically discovered this vesicovaginal fistula, right? Basically what that is a hole between the bladder and a woman's cervix, and it basically presses and causes a woman to pee on herself uncontrollably when she's pregnant, right? So he was innovative. He's going to figure out how to fix this thing, right? He's going to figure out how to help these women. How did he do it? He took slaves and he operated on them without anesthesia. He cut these women without anesthesia. Did you hear me? Without anesthesia. He cut these women. He operated on them. He did more than one surgery. He did over 30 surgeries on one woman. And see, that goes back to this, they can take the pain type of thing. We're going to get in that later. I don't want to get into it right now because, I got a little something to talk about there. But that just goes to show he used slave women to do these experiments on so that he could eventually, they deemed him the father of gynecology on the backs and the pain and the exploitation of Black women slaves. And they're oh my gosh, they always try to sugarcoat it, right? Always try to make it sound good. So what they said was that the Black women, those slaves that didn't have rights, that they volunteered. That they volunteered to be subjects for him to operate on without anesthesia. No. All right, so ethical or unethical? I vote for unethical. We cannot, and the crazy thing about it is that situations like this have given a lot of people, I won't call any colors or anything out, but they have given a lot of people leeway to say, well, we did it in the name of medicine, and they feel like that covers all of the sin and the hurt and the pain that they put people through. But it doesn't. Okay? All right, so we're going to move on. But that was J. Marion Sims, the father of gynecology who operated on black slaves without anesthesia. All right, so let's talk about Fannie Lou Hamer. Now, this woman was, she was a civil rights leader. I'm going to get a little bit of her background just so you know exactly who she was. She was the woman, she was a black woman who basically was fighting for her right to vote. But you know, before all of that, something happened to Fannie Lou Hamer. What happened? Fannie Lou Hamer, she had pregnancies that had failed. She tried to, her husband tried to get pregnant over and over again. And when she was 44, she went to the hospital or to the doctor for a small uterine tumor. And it was, now they're classifying it as a small fibroid. It's basically a growth on your, wherever it's growing, it's called a fibroid. But guess what happened, y'all? While she was knocked out, hey, they gave her anesthesia. But while she was knocked out, they gave her a hysterectomy. Did she ask for it? No. Did they ask her, did she want it? No. They just took it upon themselves to just take out all her organs that would allow her to reproduce. Hysterectomy. And when I was doing research, they basically said that the practice was so common, y'all, like white is white type of common. It was so common that they performed it on black women that it was nicknamed the Mississippi appendectomy. Yep, they had a name for it. When they would take these women's reproductive organs out without their consent. Like, what is... But they felt like they were entitled to do that, right? So not only that, y'all, Fannie Lou Hamer went through so much. She did eventually die of cancer at the age of 59. But get this, she also lost a daughter that she had adopted. Because they wouldn't, let's talk about healthcare, right? Because her daughter got sick, and because she was the daughter of Fannie Lou Hamer, they wouldn't treat her. They would not treat her just because she was Fannie Lou Hamer's daughter. And she died. I'm telling y'all, these health disparities are real. And we have to be aware of what happened in our history so they don't present themselves in our present and they don't become part of our future. They have to change, and we can see in healthcare that some of these things are still going on. Some of these prejudices and crazy rules against black people are still going on. Let's talk about the reproductive experiments, how after the natural increase is what they called the reproductive experiments back in the slave days. And that was when basically slave trade was abolished in the 1800s. It was abolished. So they could no longer do slave trading. So what did they do? They did what they call natural increase. And they forced these women, the black women, black slaves, they forced them to have children. And I'm not talking about one or two children. Fannie Lou Hamer was the youngest of 20 children. Okay, they use these black women as breeders. This is what they call them, breeders, to have children over and over and over again. I mean, some of these women, you guys, some of these women had more than 20 children. That's a lot of children. But they felt that because they were slaves, This was their way of making sure that they didn't lose their income. This is the way to make sure that after that child turned 1, because the child was a child of a mother who was a slave, then that child became a slave. Over 20 children. Some people. So they use them as breeders, and they basically they dehumanize the women. They used the women's bodies they experimented on women. They used them to cure diseases for other women. Y'all know who I'm talking about? They practiced on black women. They used black women bodies to come up with cures and fixes to different things that other women went through. And a lot of these women, they didn't get any anesthesia. So, and then, I mean, it goes on. It's even further than that. Let's talk about the yellow fever, right? Yellow fever was a disease that people contracted. And of course, it was a disease that was unto death. You could actually die from it. But they was like, well, they're saying that the disease originated in Africa from all of the filth and stuff that the people had to come over in a boat, and then they come to the States, and then they had this disease called the yellow fever. And guess what? It started taking the white people out. It started taking them out. They started dying from it. So I don't even know what you call them. I call them free black men, because they say free slaves, but how could a slave be free? So I call them free black men. They were free black men, and they told them, I know ignorance is bliss, but hey, it still happened. It was like, well, you guys, y'all seem immune to it. So y'all should stay back and take care of the ones that are sick and bury the dead. That's what they were told. These were free black men. And they did it. And guess what? They contracted that. They contracted it too. They contracted yellow fever. Now, I will say that, all of them didn't die, but some black people who stayed back to help and take care of the sickly and bury the dead, they died too in that contagious yellow fever disease, because we weren't valued. We were the ones that's supposed to pick up the slack. Health disparities. They use us in any form, fashion. And then you wonder why there is a lack of health care for black people. And they were like, well, the black people won't come forward. They won't allow us to treat them. Why? I mean, look at all this stuff that happened. I would be hesitant too. I've read, and a lot of times I read up on my stuff, because look at all the stuff that happened. But I understand the the unwillingness to actually go to doctors from the older. It's a lot of the older generation, African Americans, that they're gonna try to find a home remedy versus going to the doctor. I'm one of those people who will look for a home remedy first before I go to the doctor, because we have been betrayed so many times. We have been used so many times. We have been experimented on so many times. And the crazy thing about it is they experiment on black people and won't even compensate them or their families. This is completely wrong. And a lot of people are like, well, I'll save my money and I'll cure myself at home. I'll find a home remedy. I'm not going to put money to somebody else's pocket that may or may not look out for my best interest. And that's what it really boils down to. And I do encourage people, you know what? Go get diagnosed. Go to somebody you trust. Go to somebody that looks like me. I know it's few and far between, but go to somebody that looks like you and get the help that you need when it comes to your health. But that's just the situation we're in because of the past that we've been through. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is pain endurance, right? And then I'm going to go into a little summary, but pain endurance, right? Y'all know this myth is still going on that black men and women can take more pain than other races. What? We all bleed. We all got nerves. These are the same nerves y'all been practicing on, the same hearts, brains, mind, all of that. The system and functions in your body, we all got the same thing, but yet still, because of my color, I can take more pain? What? I'm gonna give y'all my quick story, right? So when I had my daughter, I had an epidural, and honestly, the having her was not hard. But when I had my son, my doctor decided that I only needed increments of pain medicine. They did not give me an epidural. He told me that whenever I felt pain, to mash a button, and it would give me a small amount of pain medicine. That was the worst delivery I had. And I had another daughter even after my son. But that was the worst. I'm telling you, my blood pressure was up because of the pain. They still would not give me an epidural after I asked more than one time, but would not give me an epidural. They told me, oh no, you're okay. How can you tell me if I'm okay? I know my pain. They were like, just smash the button every time you feel pain. So it's real. Like, seriously, it's real. I was listening to Serena Williams' story about how she had to make sure that they had taken care of her properly after she had her child, because her family had a history of blood clots running in their family. And the doctors ignored her. She had to say, hey, look, she had to get their attention. Look, I know what's going on in my family. She had to run down her medical history for them to give her what she needed to make sure that she lived. Like, what is going on? Like, can we get past this color thing? Can we get past it to take care of each other? Like, seriously, they always say we do this in the name of medicine and in the name of progress and everything. But at the same time, you're sacrificing our black bodies for your progress and won't even take care of us. Like, come on. And when we do reach out, you treat us like we're less than. You telling us because of our color that we don't experience that pain. Don't do that. Come on, America, wake up. It's time out for that. Like, we don't want, just like you don't want your loved ones to suffer in pain, we don't want to suffer in pain, and we don't want our loved ones to suffer in pain. Treat me like you would treat your mother or your child. Don't treat me like I'm less than because of my color. And that's what this all boils down to, these black disparities that we're going through. Because a lot of people feel like they're not going to treat me like a human being if I go to the doctor. And we're going to touch on some more stuff that happened in history that confirms it. We're going to talk about that next series, but we're going to stay right here right now. We really need to wake up and know our rights, know when something is wrong, call it out. Stop sitting there waiting for something to happen or somebody to tell you to do something. This is your life. This is your body. Take care of it. And if that doctor isn't doing what they're supposed to do, you go there and you still experience the same thing. You go in there and you're doing everything the doctor's telling you to do and you're getting worse. Find another doctor. Find somebody who looks like you. And if they look like you and you still experience it, find another one. There is nothing wrong with getting a second opinion or a doctor that's better for you. You got to find somebody who fits to you, because this is your life. This is your health. And black disparities in health, it has been crazy in the past. It's gotten a little better, but it's not where it needs to be. And how are we going to get there? You have to speak up. You have to say something. You have to look out for yourself. Not only yourself, but for people who look like you. For your children who going to have to be subjected to medical help from somebody. I just want us to be in good health, the best health as possible. And in order to do that, we have to speak on it. We have to speak up. That's why this vlog is called Speak On It. Because if we remain quiet, if we remain silent, then the very same things that have happened in the past will repeat. And we have to be careful of that. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. And I will see you next time for our next series, which is Black Disparities from the Male Perspective. Thank you. Have a great one.